And welcome to another adventure of the Role-Based Podcast. We are here to give you another adventure into our many RPG games that we talked so far in this series. Please check them all out. But I am the first member of your party, Jeremy, and the creator of the In-Game Boss program and all the other great shows. And along with me, of course, your second member of the party, the one that likes to stay at the inn while you go out on adventures and spend all your money at the inn and then spend more money at the next inn because they always like $10 more. Mr. Brian, how you doing?
I'm the magician of the party. First
Are you? Oh, okay.
I'm always the magician. Everybody's out of mana, and it's up to me to shoot out a lightning bolt and kill everything.
You know, I think you'd be the stingy one with Phoenix Downs. I think you would not give unless you have a damn good reason why. Why should I revive Billy? Give me a reason why I should revive Billy right now.
I would revive first.
Do I need him? Ask the group here. Do we really need him anymore?
I would use revive spell first of all. Even if I ain't have no mana, then yeah, I will not even use the Phoenix Down. Nope.
You know what sucks?
Pick yourself up. You better use like the red mage for that. Because
I don't even know.
Black mage.
Is it a feather?
Yeah, Phoenix Down is a feather.
It's
a phoenix feather.
Yeah, you know how weird it'd be if you died and then we have to dig your pockets for feathers?
No. Have you played Origins, Assassin's Creed Origins?
Yes.
Have you seen the deaths when he hits him with the feather? That's
what
I imagine Phoenix Down is. After he kills somebody, he has a whole diatribe about why he killed him and whatever, and then he touches them with a feather and they disappear. That's what I imagine a Phoenix Down does. You just tap them with a feather and they just rise up. It's silly. It's about as bad as Resident Evil 7 and pouring liquid on your hand to fix everything wrong with you. You got to stab me in the gut. Let me pour some liquid on my hand.
I always imagine in RPGs of all the items you buy and where do you store them to make it work? Like you got healing? Like, dude, I'm checking my pockets. We don't have any. I don't have any.
I want to know why I beat up a bird and he's got $1 million on him. That's what I want to know. That's why you have money.
Right. I was like, how many pickpockets did you do?
Why do you have money? Why are you not eating it yet? I mean, why does a monster, why does the Omega weapon have more money than a god that I fought? I'm just
Why
curious.
do I think I could steal something from a monster thinking they have something?
Why am I going to be in line and an Omega weapon's going to be in front of me waiting to get groceries? I'm just, I don't know. Hey, wait your turn.
RPG games are just so funny to kind of just like look at it hindsight of like in that reality how it works,
you know. People's houses and rob them blind in front of them, and they don't say nothing. Like,
no,
I just took this chest,
and
which is locked,
and they shouldn't say anything because the fact that you let me in your house, so that's your first mistake.
Well, as soon as I leave the house, they no longer exist, so it don't matter.
It's literally the open door policy in RPG. If I open the door, if you walk in, you are free to take whatever you want.
Basically,
yeah,
you're getting robbed, and it's okay.
Right.
Just let it happen.
At least like I think it's funnier if you find like a pot or like a little potion stuff. It's weirder when you find a weapon. Like, how did this giant axe get in this drawer?
In this little bitty drawer of like the stuff that women keep their freaking earrings in. There's a big axe that is comically large and makes this freaking cloud sword look like a toothpick.
Yeah.
Like, no. Well, how did this get in this little bitty drawer?
Right. But once again, we're here to bring you into another RPG. And this one is probably our most...
polarizing.
That's a good word, but I would say it's going to be the most dialogue talked about because...
Possibly.
This game has a lot in there, and that is Radiant Historia. That is an Atlus game that came out in 2011. And people probably automatically hear this game. You get a lot of compared to Chrono Trigger because this game deals with time traveling, but in a different aspect, right? Because as Chrono Trigger is time traveling in different eras, this is different on a timeline of different in the events that you are in.
It's like forks in a road.
Yes. And so I picked this game because I bought it a while back, and I was convinced that, you know, that it had a Chrono Trigger kind of feel, and I was a sucker for that, and I got it on. Now this is the regular one, so we don't have the Perfect Chronicle one. So we don't have the definitive edition, which that adds a couple of extra characters and extra timelines. So
OG edition. That's what
basically. And another thing too about it was when I first played it, I got into it, and then something came along and distracted me, and I never came back to it. So I wanted to kind of give this game a chance to really make it or break it if I really like this game or not.
That sounds like most of my freaking games I have. I played it, and I just stopped. Mm-hmm. And I have a backlog that's larger than some people's games collections.
Right. And so playing this game again, I gave Brian my copy for the DS, and I got my own copy that I played on the computer. And so
DSi, in fact, which the store no longer works, by the way. Anyway.
And so so first off, we have different categories. You know, we're going to talk about story, we're going to talk about characters, we're going to talk about the gameplay, we're going to have our quotes, we're going to have our progression, we're going to have all this stuff. So the first thing we're going to ask for each other is the cover of it. So looking at the cover of it, it's kind of like an art piece per se. You know, you got your heroes up in the front and whatnot, and you got your kind of characters. They always have the villains or the most mystery characters always in the background in faded form, and then you have your heroes up in the front. I like this cover. I think with Atlus does a really good job doing the kind of more the anime kind of look kind of covers, and those are people that did your Personas and your Shin Megami Tensei and all this stuff. So I really like the cover. Brian, what's your thoughts on the cover?
I think it's fine. After you play the game, I mean, obviously you know what the characters are, and the main character, he's pretty much front and center. Mm-hmm. And then you got the two side characters that you use, at least as far as I got, that you constantly use, and then you got another character which I actually don't know who that is, and then you got one of the gods or whatever you want to call it on the game. So I think it's fine. It looks very. Is
that a game? So the question for your listeners probably be: if you saw this game in the store, would that intrigue you to give it a try?
Me? No, it's not. It doesn't grab me enough. It just looks like a bunch of people confused. So I mean, it does. I mean, the above the main character, you got a person who's bright-eyed and looking to the left and like, I don't know what's going on. Then you got another girl who looks happy because she sees whatever's left. So why is he confused but she's not? Then again,
you can tell he's going really deep.
Are also looking confused. And then you got the main character who's looking like an edgelord. And then you got some monkey-looking guy, and he just looks mad at the world. So I don't know what to make of it. I don't even know what kind of game this would be.
Like a Japanese RPG, all covers are kind of like, I don't know what I'm getting into.
Yeah, but you got this game. You would have to know. I mean, if you're an RPG aficionado like we are, maybe. I mean, you hear the name and you're like, that's got to be an RPG. Radiant Historia, yeah, definitely RPG. But if you don't know, you looking at this and you're like, what kind of game is this? Is this a real-time strategy? Is this an action RPG? Mm-hmm. I don't know what to expect. That's why I don't think it appeals to me. It doesn't tell me enough.
I think on the opposite, I think it grabs me compared to other Japanese covers. I like when they show all the characters in front. It kind of shows like, okay, this is the different varieties they have there. Instead of just a solo character, it's kind of like, so I have to be dedicated to like that particular character on the cover. But on the cover of many more characters, at least like I could probably like maybe one or two of those people based on looks.
Yeah. Well, the one guy above the main character, he could be the main character. You can't tell.
That's true. That's true. But like compared to like Final Fantasy VII, like I better like this character with this giant Buster shield, or Buster sword, or I'm just not gonna have a good time.
Which, spoiler alert, I didn't like Cloud. By the way, y'all can sue me. I don't care.
Spin off the Zack block, right?
Yeah, edgelord to the 9,000 degrees.
But if you really think about it. For Japanese games, most of the time, it's either one person or it's a giant group. You don't really get duos. You don't really get triples. You get maybe like a whole cast or just one person.
Yeah, I mean, it's true because I'm looking at your Final Fantasy 12 cover, and it's pretty much the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a bunch of characters, and they all look confused, and they don't know what they're doing. So, I mean, that doesn't really grab me either. The only thing to grab me is, Final Fantasy. So, you have to know. Like I said, you just have to know what kind of game it is. Because me, I gravitate towards Japanese RPGs anyway. So I would pick this up if I knew it was a JRPG.
So definitely, too, about this cover of the game, and I will say for this game in general, this is a game that you probably only heard when someone recommended to you. This is not a game
definitely.
Like I did for Brian. I brought this game to his attention. But if someone brought up an RPG that is kind of like lost in the world of RPGs or underrated to them or a cult following, this is probably one of those kind of games that someone's like, well, have you tried this game? You know? But for Brian, though, and I mean, we're big RPG person, so we definitely done our diamond in the rough kind of games. But it surprised me that you haven't heard of this game until I brought it to your attention.
Nope.
So,
well, I mean, I didn't really get into RPGs on handheld systems, probably.
Oh, okay.
Because there's a whole conversation about games on the go that would get real deep if we talked about it. But games on the go for me are not RPGs. Basically, they're pick up, play, go. That's it. Okay. So RPG handheld does not appeal to me usually.
What if they're called roll pocket games? Would that change your mind?
Pocket games? That sounds like a ball that fell out of your pocket and rolled under the table.
So, how many hours did you put in, Brian?
Just over 5.
Okay, so as you know, and for this show, that the minimum that we have to play a game is 5 hours. 5 hours, because at that time you should at least kind of get the idea of what this game is trying to tell you and whatnot. So he put 5 hours in. I put 16 hours in. So definitely the opposite of our last episode,
which was about the same but flipped.
Yes. But I will say, in fact, for Battle Chaser Night Wars, this game's story is way more appealing than that one. Because the only thing I can say, this game has a story. So
yeah.
But you go listen to our conversation about that and come with your own decision for that.
Yeah, I'd say the story's better. I mean, you kind of know what's going on after you figure out the lore. You know what's going on. But Battle Chasers, for the most part, I really didn't even know what's going on.
Yes.
So I give you that.
So first things first, let's talk about, of course, the story. And so one thing I want to warn everybody, if you played this game, most of the time RPGs that are really good is the games with a lot of dialogue. And this game has a lot of dialogue. You have been warned when you play this game.
Yeah.
From a Final Fantasy to anything, especially games that had to do with political stuff, a lot of dialogue. A lot of dialogue. Like Final Fantasy 15 had a lot of dialogue. It was dealing with political. It was dealing with war and all that kind of stuff. You know. Same.
Yep.
You could say, yeah, I would say that one up there. Final Fantasy 12, my favorite one in the series. Same thing.
12?
Yeah, 12 is my favorite. We can talk about that outside of that. We don't have time for that for now.
All right.
So, but most of the time, RPGs is very heavy dialogue. This one's heavy dialogue because the fact you are dealing with time travel, and that is the big thing here.
And have to explain it to you, but it's better than, like, say, some games that explain something to the main character that he should already know. Because you don't know about the time travel until a certain point in the game, which is very early in the game, but at a certain point they explain it to you. So it flows more naturally. It doesn't feel like they're belittling the character as opposed to explaining it to them. Because sometimes they explain Expedition to a character who should already know about this. Mm-hmm. But this one does a good job of that.
So in the continent of Vanquir, a decay swallowed by sand kind of continent, we have 3 nations, okay? But the ones that we care about is 2 nations. You have Alistel, and then you have Grenoble, okay?
Granola, whatever.
Yeah. So basically, think of it as Gundam. You got the Titans, and then you got the Earthlings or Earth Federation per se. Okay, and you start with your main character named Stock, and he is basically in the military, but he's in a secret intelligence group at the time.
He's like special forces.
Yes, and during a mission per se, actually before that he goes into kind of like a talk with somebody, and then later on he gets presented with a book.
Hess was the name of the guy. The name of the guy who's in charge of the secret division that Locke works for, his name is Hess. And he puts him on a mission where he gives him a book called
The White Chronicles.
White Chronicles.
Yes. And from there, it's all twists and turns, where he doesn't understand what the book is there for, but it does open the world a possibility that he has the ability to change time and different events to help to find the right path of, saving his friends, saving the war, winning the war, all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to kind of cut the fat off of here because there's a lot more deeper than this, but I'm trying to cut a little bit of fat so we don't go too much into that. I want people to play it more of it.
The 2 things that happens is, one, I don't know if it's the book, but he sees a vision, and then you can see that this is probably going to be where the story changes. But he sees a vision of something, and then the book allows him to time travel as he gets to whatever vision he sees.
Yes, and you later on get addressed in you meet these 2 guardians, and the name of the guardians are let me see here is Lipti and Tio. They're basically timekeepers. They are basically, think of it like you open the book and you just get transferred to this place. They're basically guardians.
They're the exposition gods.
Yeah.
That's what they are. They give you all the information.
They're basically watchers, and they kind of just help you out with what you need to do, and they kind of give you tips of, this is what's happening. We need you to figure out what's going on. And so, and they give you these kind of different rules and whatnot. Now, also during that time, during the war, they are dealing with a disease that's going on, and it's called the desertification.
Yeah, like they turn to sand or something?
Yeah. So basically what they say is, in this world, in most RPGs, your body is filled with health and mana. So, in any RPG is, what happens if you use your life? You just die. Yeah. What if you lose all your mana? In this world, you turn into sand and you die, which is intriguing.
So you got to worry about health and MP, and per se in the game. More in the story, not so much in the game. But I mean, for the story basis, you cannot run out of health and you cannot run out of mana. You die either way.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying for the gameplay. I'm just saying how that world is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like in the gameplay, you don't ever turn into sand if you run out of mana. Because that'd be dumb. Like, oh, great, I replenished all my mana. I should be dead. No, it doesn't work like that. It's just, that's just the best way to kind of show the world. The world is full of, there is a magic vibe aura in the world, and people can use magic in that world. But if you basically got depleted, you turn into sand, and that's, they basically call it a sand plague,
which is scary for me because I'm the wizard. So
right, and so basically, Stock is going through this war, and there's different decisions. Even at the beginning, you get a tight decision of do you roll with your best friend at the time that is named Roche or Roach. Roche. I'm going to call him Roach. Or you stay with the intelligence.
So Roche works for the basic
military.
Do your basic idea of that. And Hess is, like we said, the special forces. So Roche wants you to come, work straight for the military. And Hess doesn't really say anything about it, but it's your choice whether you want to join with Roche or you want to stay with Hess doing, special ops type things.
And so that's where the timeline splits. There's only two timelines. You have the one if you stay with intelligence, and you have the one going with Roche. And in between those lines, there's different little paths you can go in, but some of them just have dead ends based on the choice that you have.
Yeah.
And if you make the mistake, you have the ability to go back to a pre-event and try to fix that problem so you can continue the story. And
it gets deeper than that too.
And now deeper than that is, in one path, you need something from the other timeline to help you continue the other timeline.
Such as, there's one point where you have to they're attacking something, and one of the guys who's supposed to help you with something dies, so you have to go to the other timeline to make sure he survives. Also, you have to send some explosives or something to him, and you have to make sure that you stop the army from rushing in so those explosives can be sent. So you have to do both timelines anyway, whether you want to or not. But, I mean, I really liked that aspect. I thought that was really cool that they did that.
Yeah, and I like the fact that, most RPGs, when you make a decision, you're stuck with this. I like playing both sides because I kind of want to see what's going to happen on both sides, and not so much I'm dedicated to this. And this game does a good job of kind of just showing you that the writing is good writing. It's really good. I bet it was so complicated coming up with this idea compared to a Chrono Trigger where you're just hopping through different times and, you're going to kind of see the same thing. But here it's more of like, I'm basically balancing two checkbooks. Kind of per se, and seeing how it works in that aspect. I love that. I love the fact that you get a roadblock and you have to go to the other one. It forces you. Because if you didn't have a force, you would just pick one timeline and then you would replay it again and go the other way. But here it kind of forces you in that way. I really like about that. But I think what's really cool, Brian, is I don't think you got far enough, but later on you find out that the Guardians tell you that there's a Black Chronicle book.
Yeah, I got there.
Okay. So the Black Chronicle book is telling you that there's someone else that has the opposite book, and he's trying to mess up your path.
He knows about you, and he's actively trying to screw you up.
Yes. So what the thing too, like I like about this, Brian, it's a mystery. It's kind of, I love the mystery of you're also investigating what's going on. So like you're trying to come up with your own answers. Like the first question is like, why did Heist give me this book? And how come I haven't questioned him yet? Does he have the black book?
Well, but then again, the Guardians tell you that you are not allowed to speak on this book at all.
Exactly.
Which is why, because the first thing I would have done is be like, hey, Hess, what you know about this book, though? Because it's special.
Yeah.
That would have been, but you were not allowed to do that. So,
and the same thing could be with him. He's probably not allowed.
Yeah, but it seems like he wants to know some things because when you first go back after the first time the book talks to you, it kind of seems like he knows something about this book. So
yeah, and just the fact that it's almost he's trying to get you the break.
Yeah.
Because he knows what you know, but you don't know what he knows.
Mm-hmm. He knows that you might not know.
Right?
Something about the book.
Yeah, and I love like going back to this path, especially sometimes like the people are important because certain people give you kind of like a little Easter egg or a little side quest that you can later grab and go back in that time and get it, and you get a special item for that. Like, man, I haven't been sleeping lately, man. I wish I could have such and such. And then you find it like, oh, I can go back to an event and give that to him and get a bonus, you know? And that's a little side project there. Instead of like going on a different quest and doing all this stuff, it's like a little short little thing you can do there. And I like that. I like about that. And I love the cast. I like all the characters that are on here. I like the fact that I like the political part of this military of, you know, you have half of the military that is very like religion, like Noah, which we'll get into more of the characters, to conspiracies and all this secretness that's going on. And you have to play that together and still balance this book. But here's the question for you, Brian.
What's up?
Do you feel like as for him that he has to pretend to be dumb going back and forth? Because he's dealing with
stock?
Yeah.
Are you talking about like the butterfly effect?
No. Because it doesn't affect him.
No, it doesn't. That's another thing they say. Like the first time you use it, you get horribly injured by some dude who works for the other army. And when you go back in time, you still have these injuries. Yeah. So basically the past for them, or the past for stock, is kind of like the future.
He basically got a shield over him, so he can just jump around all he wants. But if he gets hurt, he gets hurt.
Yeah.
If he dies, he dies.
Yeah. So the Guardians try to get him before that happens usually. But yeah, he knows all of what's going on in every single timeline while nobody else does. So you want to know if I think he's got to play stupid? Or should he tell? Well, he got to because the Guardians told him to. But I don't know.
Well, no. Not talk about the book. Yes. But you could have talked about, like, do you think he's allowed to talk about, I don't know, like, hey, you got hurt at one point, or hey, you got this happening to you. Is that breaking the rule?
What do you mean?
Like,
I need more.
So you can't talk about the book. Does he mean like talk about the book? And does that include talking about the timeline?
I'm pretty sure it has to do with that. I mean, it'd be silly if not.
Okay.
But I'm assuming that he can't talk about the fact that he traveled in time. I mean, that's kind of given.
So
he can't go back to in the timeline where he joined Rosh and then go back to the timeline he joined Hesh and say, hey, you know, I joined the other guy in another timeline and this will happen. I don't know. He can't do that.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, let's say that you're the traveler and I'm part of your party. And the first timeline, I did something stupid. And then in the second timeline, how do you react to that? Like, you're like, do you just have to treat me separately as two different people, or more of you have to treat me? How would you treat me? You know what I mean? Like, do you have to play dumb a little bit? Like
I'd say, yeah, you have to play dumb a little bit because you don't want to spill the secret that you know that I'm about to do something stupid. So
would that be hard for you? That'd be hard.
To a point, he has to play dumb, but I don't think like completely oblivious to everything.
I think it'd be hard for me to play dumb because it's basically like I was like I understand, but just like, oh, who didn't see this coming? But no, enemies are coming. Who did?
No, but you kind of see Locke. Because this is one thing I don't like. Is it seems like at the beginning, Locke seems like a hardened soldier, whatever. Yep. I'm gonna call him Locke.
Locke, stock, and smoke and barrel, right?
From this point on, his name is Locke. It sounds better. Anyway, he seems like he's a hard character. Don't talk or this or that. But then the second he gets these two subordinates, he changes like immediately. I don't like that. It didn't seem true to his nature. At least is what they were presenting. They should have presented him a little bit different in the beginning to me, and it made more sense. But anyway, so he starts to build this bond with his two characters. Now, if he jumped timeline to timeline and say he didn't do something and he did talk to him like they were further along in their bonding, would that be weird?
I think that would be weird.
That would be weird.
That would be weird.
Oh, Rainey, give me a hug. Like, whoa, we are not there yet, buddy.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, that would be weird.
But back to your character, you were talking about you don't like how stock is. I think a lot of Japanese RPG characters always had those main characters that are a bit of a stone hard, cold character, and then once they find a couple of people he's comfortable with, he opens up a little bit more.
But he breaks quick. It is too fast.
We saw people die.
That's what I'm saying. He meets them, and then he sees them die. All of a sudden, he loves them. I'm like, wait a minute. No.
What? What?
He's
so I should not care about them anymore?
He's military. The people die all the time, and usually, at least that's my understanding, he didn't know him long enough to be like, I mean, he don't want him to die, but man, he fell in love with him too. It's like, okay, you don't want him to die. That's great. Okay, we're good. But it should have been drawn out a little more. Then it would have worked, I believe.
Okay.
I think the pacing is a little off.
But due to credit, I say that Marco and Rain or Renee, or whatever you want to call her, they did break him open a little bit. They like Stock didn't volunteer. They like try to broke the show, and I think that's reasonable. That's what they did in other RPGs.
Pacing. It just happened too fast. It's the Darth Vader syndrome.
You mean time? It went too.
It's the Darth Vader syndrome. He went from being on the Jedi Order to a bad guy in the span of 10 minutes. No, we don't do that. That's what I'm saying. It should have just been drawn out a little bit longer. It's a pacing issue to me.
Okay.
That's what I think it is. It's not bad. It's actually good. I actually like when, people break out of the shell and turn into something else. That's how most people relate to characters anyway, is how they see them change. It's just the pacing was wrong. It's too fast.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It should have been drawn out a little bit. I mean, this is like mission 1, and he went from, hey, I'm your superior, to, oh my God, let's get married.
I guess, man, for me, I think once I see a death, is the caring starts. Yeah, regardless if I don't like you or not. Okay. Like, dude, it's responsibility. I don't want to be responsible for your death.
Yeah, but again, coming from military, you don't want to see him die, but it's not you're going to fall in love with him because of that. Like,
I think that love is a strong word.
It's pretty much that. It was pretty much that. You could see it. He was, oh my God, what happened?
If anything, he was more love with Roach than those two.
Yeah. When you choose not to join Roche, he becomes kind of mean to Roche.
Heist is even worse. Heist started sending like assassins. He's trying to kill Roach in the game.
I bet.
Yeah.
I figured because I didn't get to the point where one of the visions you see is you standing over Roche and he looked like he's dying.
So with that happened at my 15th hour.
Damn.
Yeah, when that happened. It's a long arc. It's about chapter 2 of the story when that event happens. And that's crazy because at the beginning when you see these premonitions, it's like it's like right around the corner. There it stretches out farther. Okay. A lot farther. So that was interesting.
But it seemed like they were it seemed like that second time they were more about introducing you to go to this timeline, and then when you're done, jump back to this timeline.
Right.
But the first one was just, jump back. It wasn't jump back from timeline to timeline. It was just jump back. That's it.
I love the fact that when you mess up. Like if you make a decision, like, do you wait for more soldiers to come or you just go for it? And you make a mistake, they tell you it's almost like choose your own adventure moment. Like you died, all the people surrounded you, you die. And then they push you back to the event and you do it again and try again. I like that. Because when you look at the timeline, it's like a red shattered tablet. And it's like, well, you learn that lesson. I like this. It's a trial and error. I like the trial and error about this.
I don't know, kind of off of the Detroit series on PlayStation. I guess it would be stealing. Detroit would be stealing from them because this game, I'm sure, came out first. But anyway,
I think the difference though, with Detroit is when you make a decision, the story goes on. Here it's a dead end. You got to go back again.
So
redo it.
It flips on its head a little more, which makes it to me more interesting. Mm-hmm. I guess they both have their merits. It's like you want to keep going. Say you're doing whatever and a guy dies, you could keep going and see what kind of ramifications that has later on. So in Detroit, I like that. But then this one has a difference. You got to keep him alive. You got to do that. So you need to go back and stop being a little punk and fix it. So
yeah, and I think because of that, I think there's only really one solid ending, maybe maybe two. Maybe there's a choice at the very end that maybe have two choices compared to the series like Detroit Heavy Rain and all that. There's
6,000 endings, yeah.
So
Chrono Trigger with its 32 endings, but anyway.
That's very true. I think that's easier to do those kind of endings based on a small choice. Here, balancing these two times, it'd be hard to have your 16 endings. You have too many trees.
I don't know. It feels more. What is the word I'm looking for? It has more weight in this one when you mess up, it seems like. Versus Detroit, oh, well, you can keep going even if this happens. But this one, it's like, I got to make sure I don't screw up or I got to go back and fix it. Which, I mean, that's fine. I think it's fine.
So with the whole timeline, and we find this Right Chronicle book, and then we hear about this Black Chronicle book that exists, and all this stuff, has there been any unanswered questions in your journey that you still kind of wondering, like, why hasn't this been addressed yet? Or why was this not addressed yet?
Not really. I think, like I said, I don't have no problem with the story. The story's fine. They answer pretty much most of the questions I would have. Because the basic question is like, does Hanson know about it? Of course, I didn't get far enough. And, I mean, maybe you find out he got the Black Chronicle. I don't know. But as far as him not saying anything, they explain that. So, other than that, I get everything else. So, it's implemented weird about the whole, okay, you do this part, but you got to keep this guy alive. And maybe they explain this to you because I didn't get as far as you did, but it's like, how do you know what will completely screw up the timeline? Like, how do I know that I need to keep this guy alive if I keep going on with the story or whatever? Or how do I know I need to do this part if I don't know at the time?
So one scenario happened was, did you ever get to the Sand Fortress in your journey? Okay. So when you get to the Sand Fortress, your goal was to hold down the fort while one of the leaders named Viola was leading this army and it backfired. You find out later that in the game you get this ability of finding hidden things. Now, Brian, you probably have seen this before. You ever just walk randomly somewhere and you honestly get snapped? Like a trap or something hits you and you're like, what the hell is that? Why am I, who hit me?
Yeah.
Okay. Later on, you get this ability through the Guardians that you can start seeing stuff that are invincible.
Yeah.
So later in the game, there was a choice where while we were finding out we were being attacked and we ran out of the castle and we run back, we found out they were hitting bombs and everything bombed and blew up. Now we can still continue the fight, or I can immediately go back and find all those hidden bombs immediately, and then I can have a better fighting experience right there. I like that.
Yeah, but how did they explain that to you, though?
So, I feel like that's where the Guardians come in. Anything that feels awkward, they come right there to answer your question, right? Right. It's kind of weird. Like
that seems super convenient.
It is, but that's what time is. Time is convenient.
Well, if you have the White Chronicle, then time means nothing, honestly.
That makes sense too.
Back and fix anything you screwed up.
But yeah, you're right. But I feel like that since he has the book, the Guardians can come to answer. It's almost like they're almost in your mind, like whatever you're thinking. They're like, I know what you're thinking.
I guess
this happened here. Let me tell you what you can do. I'm just saying what the game presents, because every time you have an issue, they always pop up right at the right point at your convenience. But since it's time, it's hard to argue that because like they're time.
I guess maybe the problem I'm having with it is it held your hand too much.
I can see that. Like it
didn't let me go and do whatever. But being that you do have certain little parameters in each mission, I understand the hand holding up to a point.
I think I agree with that, but I think it's because they were so focused on a dedicated story more than you make your own story. Since it's dedicated, that's you're playing by their rules.
The complete opposite of Breath of the Wild, basically.
Yeah.
Complete opposite.
Yeah. So for this game, if you have free will, then they probably wouldn't show around. What they show around? That means you need to learn on your own. But since I feel like this is a set story, they're meant to come at this time and this time to tell you stuff because they knew.
No, that's what I'm saying. The complexity of the way time travel works is the reason for the hand holding, which I get, but it still felt weird.
I'll tell you what I did like. Every time they come, they were very nice to leave me a save point there.
Yeah.
They were really good at save points in this game.
With a little book floating. Yeah.
So the world itself, I like that there's a one headquarters where you go there to sleep at the inn, you buy your stuff, there's little merchants are on your route and everything, but you have a headquarters. There's not a town in each thing. And also I like that every time you go through a stage that you haven't had to go back in time, I love you can go back to open map, and if you already pass it, you can just walk all the way back to the base and heal up and then go right back where you were. Mm-hmm. If once you complete that area first, and then it brings out the map. And so, but it doesn't work. If you go back in time, you have to do all that again. But I like that. It kind of makes it kind of cut the fat off, and you can save open map. And so I like that. And I like the fact that the reason I like it because the inn only costs $50 no matter what time of day you go. And I love that because I rather do that than use my crystals, because the crystals they give you, the recovery crystals, cost $5,000, and they're there to replenish you, just in case. I only use it one time.
I'll use it one time too,
because
to see it.
Yeah, because you get pretty. They give you a good amount of money in this game.
They do. They give you
so $50 is nothing going to the inn. I just go there to refill, and I go right back out on my adventure.
Is there a way to? Well, we get to that when we get to the battle part.
Yeah, and so other things I liked about the world, I love the fact that you can knock an enemy asleep. Some of them take a couple of hits, but you can knock them asleep, and it's easier to do that.
That's the battle portion.
Yeah. I love that. It's not random encounters. You see your enemies, they're there and whatnot.
Love those.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else really to tell about this story-wise
before we get on?
Yeah, because like I said, this story has a lot of levels, and I don't want to put that in there, but I will say that I do like the fact that each character feels important. Each main character, when these cutscenes happen, they're very important characters in their own way, or they're going to be important later. And even characters that you don't think they're important, like for instance, when you go down to the medic and you meet the girl that has a relationship, kind of a crush on Roche. You all kind of grew up kind of together and stuff there. But next door, you have a scientist working on this machine. Like, where's this coming along later? I don't know how much you explored the town of Estelle.
A little bit. There's one part I wanted to get to, but I couldn't because they said it was under construction or something. Yeah.
Even, like, you can go to the dojo, per se, and if you collect the right scrolls, Marco and Rain get special new abilities.
Yeah, these are the questions I was going to ask.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in a second. And when you get, also too, I like the fact that when the story progresses, you really find out that it's almost like you're asking yourself, who's worse? Are you worse or Grenol's worse? Based on the dialogue, right? Like, who is worse? From our point of view, we look like we're in the right. But for them, you got a queen over there that's a total terrible person. You got a daughter that's really like, I want to help the people. Say, why would we help them? They should be grateful that I'm helping them.
Well, good and bad has always been a point of view anyway.
Yeah.
Hitler never woke up in the morning thinking, I'm a bad guy. He thought he was doing the right thing. So, it's always a point of view. But
some games really just make it shout out like, they're the bad guy. They're the bad guy.
Yeah. Versus this one, which actually makes you question what you're doing. And those are some of the best games. There's a couple of games that do that. But, yeah, it brings a question to your character, and that makes for a good game, in my opinion.
Yeah, because one of the missions I had to do was where I stopped at was I had to go assassinate that daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the queen's daughter.
She's a good person.
Yeah, but I've heist, but I don't know why. See, that's weird, because here's the thing, though. Like, heist is out for you, but you don't know yet. And let me tell you one other thing. Towards the end where I stopped at, heist got this ability where he can teleport.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he can teleport. While we're arguing and I'm trying to fight him, he's teleporting and I'm missing him. He has this special ability because he's connected to Noah. And Noah is a general that used to be a politician, and he believes in the grace of God that is Noah.
He's the prophet, right?
Yeah.
He's the prophet.
Yeah. Hugo, sorry, his name is General Hugo, and he basically thinks he is like basically the triumph leader, spilling out the words of Noah. And I like that. I like when people want to add religion, like, we're doing this because Noah asked for it, for all this kind of stuff, and and you've been in the military. I'm not saying in your lifetime, but you understand military that you got those people's mindset of like, we do this because God wants us to do this. And I like in this story and behind the doors of all that, because you find out that those two are connected. But anyways, where I was getting to the point is Stock, based on looking at Heist, he learned that ability. He learned to teleport.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, like, later on, like, you're seeing where this is going on. Of like, is it the book giving him the power? And all this stuff. Now, here's the craziest part about this story. Have you met the girl named Ant or Hand, H-A-T, this little girl.
No.
Okay, so you meet this tribe. They're basically your fawns, or the other Greek word, I think they're called satyr. They're basically horn people, but not so much with the goat legs.
Satyr?
Satyr. Sorry, I mispronounced it. But basically, fawn is basically kind of connected to that, like a fawn. So yeah. Anyways, so
that same thing. Satyr
yeah.
And fawn.
So basically, they're a group of people. They're basically traveling entertainers, and one of the things they said that they are also shamans. So this little girl, she's very powerful. So what happens was this is where questions starts going in. So she's a shaman, and people don't know what shamans are. They're basically people that can connect to the dead per se and all that stuff,
like a witch doctor,
spirits and all that stuff. So what happens is that we found this dead body, and Stock had a question, and then the Guardians came out, and they explained like, yeah, unfortunately, this happened to this character and whatnot and everything, and then they disappeared after explaining it, and the little girl looked at Stock and said, "Who was that?" So she can see the Time Guardians. But here's another thing too. She's a shaman. She has the ability to perish the dead body to another world. Because the world they say is heaven. So she's like, I send them to heaven. And it's like, did you send them to heaven? It's like, that's another question too. It's like,
do you know where you send them for real? Or are you just guessing?
Yeah, she's just what she was trained for. She's a little girl. She's about like 5 or 6, but she can see the Guardians, like the White Chronicle Guardians, gatekeepers, and it's like, wait a second. So
and nobody else can.
No. So like, that's why I like this storyline. It's like so many levels of like, where is this story going? And it's so intriguing.
So the story's good. I like the story.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I will say, with all this going on, that's where the heavy dialogue. If you really want to get deep into the story, you have to take the time to read everything.
And there's no spoken words, so
yeah.
Ready for some text bubbles.
Yeah, and honestly, I would say there's some you could probably just speed through. They're not important, but there's some parts like if you miss a key thing, it could confuse you later.
I was about to say you don't want to skip. Basically, don't skip. And the story is so interwoven and complex. Don't skip, Jack. If there's a dialogue, you should read.
But here's the question probably people are asking right now: is like, well, Jeremy, what if I go back in time? How do I deal with rereading the dialogue? And I'm so glad you said that, because there's two buttons. One, you could hold X and it fast forwards all your dialogue, or you could press start and skip it. Yep. So thank God they thought about that, because I'm pretty sure the developers like, I don't think people want to keep reading this over and over and over again. So at least you can skip it.
Those RPG fights where you have an unskippable dialogue before a battle and you keep dying. Ugh, nothing's worse than that.
So what do you think of the look of the game?
The look is fine. I think it looks like, Super Nintendo on steroids.
Okay.
So I think it's fine. I like the old school Super Nintendo look.
Okay. All right. So that's all we're gonna talk about story. I recommend, if you're playing it, just go into it. So let's talk about the characters. So you're not. Let me. I guess the way to put it is you enjoy Stock, but you're not on board with Stock. Is that the way to play? Because you don't hate him. You're just not really. He's just not your cup of tea.
Well, being that there's a question of conscience while you're playing as Stock, then yeah, I'd say you want to like him, but some of the decisions he makes is like, I don't know.
Okay.
That's what it seems like as far as Stock to me.
I take Stock as a character that I realize now as a gamer, I prefer characters that are not silent anymore. I like characters that kind of just speak their own minds. It kind of gets me a little bit more immersed into it, because I feel like if I'm a silent protagonist, I just don't have a saying. You give me a choice that I have to say, and I say, what? Just give this character his voice and let's just see what his thoughts about it.
No, it's all about the silent protagonist, because then you can interject yourself into the game.
Not these style games.
No, not with a complex story, but some of the games I get why they try to do a silent protagonist, but because I mean maybe you're playing as a guy and you find out you don't really like that guy or usually what he says, but you still got to play as him. Like Tommy Vercetti from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I didn't really like him.
Yeah, but at the same time...
And I still had to play as him.
Yeah, but even side protagonists, they still force you with a choice that you don't think you would say or do.
Well, if they're good at the game, they should give you multiple choices, like, say, BioWare type game.
But sometimes they also...
Don't give you the choice that you wanted to say anyway.
Or the choice that still has to give you the same answer, no matter what.
Oh, yeah. Some of the games, the illusion of choice. Yeah, they got those, which is most games, actually.
Yeah. So I'm still team whatever. I'd rather have my character talk. I'd rather go big or go home. Like, let me see if I like the character or not. Because most of the time, and Brian, I think you agree with me, most of the time, it's the side characters that I care about more than the main character.
Yeah, usually. I like Donald and Goofy better than Sora. But that's beside the point.
But even like you can say for even like other games like Wild Guns or Wild Arms or all your other classic games that are not Final Fantasy, you know, the side characters are the ones that kind of help build that character a little bit more to me.
Oh yeah.
And that's why I give Marco and Rain a little bit credit, because those two were very entertaining to me in this voice, because they've been through some struggles together. They have lost people, and they're still really good friends. You could tell by Rain is the very dominant, really straight to the point person, while Marco's more the heavy, trying to be he's the more cautious person.
Yeah. Rain is a little more headstrong, and then Rain is the voice of reason a lot.
It's almost like if you split Stock's personality, that's Marco and Rain.
Yeah.
In that kind of weird way, right? And I like the fact that they're there for you for thick through skin. Like, there are even parts in the game where they're like, "Go, we'll take care of this," and I worried that they might not make it. You know, and this
is in the very beginning, but when you have the choice to join Roush or Hess, like they like Hess because he helped them like earlier on, so you know they're really indebted to Hess. At least that's what Rainy makes it seem like. But when you join with Roush, they really didn't like have much pushback on it. They cared enough about Stock's character that it was like, you know, it's fine. We're still working for whatever. As long as we're working with you, it's cool. But you felt like after they told Stock about the fact that Hess helped them when their unit or something died, that they were more indoctrinated onto Hess. But they're willing to deal with, you know, Roush or whatever the dude's name is, just for Stock. So yeah, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I think they were very dedicated. Both timelines, they never done anything kind of like, oh, you broke character or you felt kind of out of place to me at certain points. You know, they asked the right questions that I feel like that Stock just never asked.
Yeah,
and all that stuff. Speaking of that, on the other timeline, you do hang out with Roche for a while, and he is quite a big fella with a metal arm. The sprite of him does not do justice of what his artwork looks like. This guy is huge. Like,
oh, I thought that was just a suit he was wearing.
No, it is a suit, but that's a big armor suit. You know, other people wear armor, but it ain't big like that. It looks like a freaking mech.
A tank, pretty much.
Yeah, but he you know, it's funny. He's a very caring character in his own way, and he was very jealous. He was very jealous when if you go on the other timeline.
Oh, I bet.
You know,
seemed like it.
It had a bromance. It was a bit of a bromance.
You can see that when you actually just choose it. He chooses it, and then he's, you know, they're kind of having a little banter. It's semi-playful, but it still seems like they're throwing in some actual feelings or whatever. They're like, you know, you're going to do what you want to do and this and that and the other, but, you know, you'd really just be better over here. Well, I do what I want anyway. Okay. All right.
Do you think them being best friends, is that believable to you? Do you believe they're best friends based on
I'd say I didn't even play it that long, but it just seemed like they're just the way watching the two different timelines play out, that's made it seem like they would be.
Okay.
Just the dialogue between you saying yes to Rosh and saying no to Rosh, that makes me believe that, they were, if they're not best friends, they're really good friends. So.
Okay. I was a sucker of Rosh's buddy, Kiel. I liked him. He was a little spunky little.
That was that first guy that you met when you joined him, and Rosh comes walking out, and he's saying, "Hey, Sergeant, you're not supposed to talk about."
Yeah.
I
like him. He has a little heart. He has a heart there. As you progress further in the story, he really looks up to Stock. Like, he looks up to Roach and Stock so much. Like, he's ready.
Yeah.
And there was one mission where I couldn't go anywhere further until I learned a certain sword dance, and Keel mention
That's right.
he does a sword dance.
He does sword dances.
Yeah, so I had to go hang out with him until I learned it and then go over there. But, dude, there is a part in the game where, you saw that premonition earlier that you saw Roche die. And Keel, by the way, if you are listening to the show and you really don't want to hear the spoilers, I'm sorry. You might need to maybe stop listening to this or fast forward about maybe 10 minutes. But spoiler, where the situation I had, my heart kind of broke a little bit when Keel sacrificed himself and he took one for the team. Oh, really? Yeah. So there was this giant battle happening, and the first time I went, I lost Roche and Keel in a battle because we found out that in the group there was an informant, someone sneaking as one of us, and set a trap to lure Roche out so they can kill him. So I went back in the timeline and gave him a heads up about it, and then went further down, and they both survived, but Roche was wounded. He was pierced. He couldn't move. We had to drag him. But someone needed to be the decoy because we were being surrounded. So Keel took the one for the team, and he made all the enemies follow him. These giant armor-plated guys after him, and he got done in. And it was heartbreaking right there because he was that kid to me. In most RPGs, he's that kid he had a bright future kind of kid. You're rubbing good on me. You're gonna be something awesome later. And it's no, you're not. Terrible. So. I'm in that, and that's what I think I like about this game is the fact that
that's how you make your well-written character.
Yeah, and it puts the work of these characters. So I like these characters so much that the fact I want to go back and try to save him. I want to. Yeah. There's not that he's not a Waka in the Brian's world. He's not a Waka you know what? You had fun. We're gonna go on without you.
I used to let Waka die I had pleasure in watching him die, and then changing him out after I revived him, but. Yeah, just made me feel better.
I really like Keel for what he is. He was trying to be by the books, and everything like that. But he was growing on me. Outside of that, you have Hugo. Hugo's very military of the gods of presenting Noah and whatnot.
He's the prophet.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the Grenoble side, you had some interesting characters. You had the high kind of.
You had a high
colonel named DS,
colonel who didn't wear his armor. And you had executioner.
Yep, his name is Polonese.
That's the first guy you fight right before the Historia comes into play.
And he's intimidating, dude.
He wrecks you bad.
Yeah, he's intimidating. The character design for these characters are very ooh, he's intimidating.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Roche a little bit.
Yeah,
armor that looks like a tank or something. So yeah.
Yeah, but you have the queen, Proti, and
this first time you meet her, you could just tell she's not a nice person.
No, she's one of those characters. If you walk in the throne, she's sitting on the throne with her feet up and fanning herself. What do you want? Kind of person. Yeah, I run this.
You're interrupting her relaxing because your presence.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah.
Yeah,
she's
and then
one of them.
Yeah, and then you have her right hand man, Salvin. Salvin is basically her, or kind of like a scholar, basically kind of like the one that kind of whatever you need, I'll take care of it kind of thing. I don't want to say butler, but she's the one look, you want this? I'll let the army know.
It's a brown noser.
Yeah, basically. And then you have Ira, and Ira is the daughter, and she's the one that's trying to get both nations to agree on. She's help our people. Unify.
Yeah.
But Proti is more of they should be happy that we're here to protect them. They're on their own from there. But you should be grateful that we care about them regardless. We don't have to help them. They should be just thankful. And you get that mentality. I like that. I like that. That gives me the thrill of I want to take her down.
Yeah. Easily.
And so, but yeah, those are mostly all your kind of characters that you see here. And in the hours I play 60 hours, I feel like I still haven't even cracked the surface of this game.
Yeah, and I definitely haven't.
But I out of all the RPG games on our list that we have played, this is probably my favorite cast of people.
It's the best story.
Yeah. And so, okay.
Yeah, definitely the best cast, especially from freaking battle chases. Yeah. It's just a cliche.
So, quote. This is a damn good quote that Heist says. And I love it because he basically makes you feel good when you lose. And he basically, what happens is he's talking to Raina and Rain and Marco, and basically they were upset that the last battle they were in before joining Stock is that, you know, I feel like that we let the people that we work with down. We were the only survivors and everything like that. And he says that you survive, which marks you as a necessity to this history. Basically, that you survived because you were not ready to die yet. You were meant somewhere down in history.
And that sounds like he knows about the book.
Yes.
Just saying.
But it's such a good quote just in general. Basically saying like you lost all your people, you survived, Brian. It's like, the reason why you survived, Brian, is because you were meant something better for history. And it kind of fogs your head a little bit. Like, I'm meant to be something more important.
It sounds like a Destiny type talk. I mean,
yeah.
You would have died if, you know, that was what you, whatever. But actually, there's some higher power has more plans for you. That's why you didn't die. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, I like that quote. I think out of all the quotes we have, like, that's like one of the best quotes.
No. Bring on the birds. All day.
So, let's get to the meat.
The battle system.
We get in the meat because during this whole conversation, we're an hour in. We haven't got to the meat yet.
The battle system.
Yes.
We've been playing around in potatoes, no meat.
All right. So, this battle system. So, we are going to take this nice and slow because it's easy to look at. It's very challenging to describe. Brian, you will help me out definitely at this. This is set like a grid, but not the grid that you think it is. The way it starts out is your party is on the right side of the screen looking left. Your enemies are coming towards you, but they're in blocks like a tic-tac-toe board.
Which is already weird. Why are you on the right side? You're never on the right side in RPGs.
Love
at least turn-based.
Lunar is one of those other games that you start from the right.
I've never played it, so.
Yeah.
We're talking about my experience. You're always on the left.
Or down below.
No. The first Final Fantasy, you was on the right.
You are. But most games always got you on the bottom. You're always on the bottom.
Oh, you're talking about like, yeah.
That's just a battle set.
Yeah, like Dragon Warrior and stuff. You were on the very bottom.
Yeah.
Or Phantasy Star on the Sega, you was on the bottom too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. And so.
Still.
Yeah. But you are set in a grid and you are fighting enemies that are coming from the.
It's a 3x3 grid, I believe.
Would you say tic-tac-toe?
It's not. Yeah, tic-tac-toe is 9 spaces and a square. So.
It's about 9 spaces.
This is 9.
Yeah.
In a square.
So basically, here's the thing. You do not ever step in that grid. You are there to basically balance the enemies that move around in that grid. So, for instance, you can have an enemy, and we're gonna call them row 1 as the closest to your characters. Row 2 is the middle. Row 3 is the back. Okay, so you got one enemy in the row 1.
That's column.
You can have an enemy in row 2 and one enemy in row 3.
That's column.
Okay, all right.
Row.
You want to call it? Yeah.
Column.
Okay.
Anyway,
we're good. That's even more confusing.
Rows top to bottom, columns, closest to you to furthest to you. Okay. So let's say column 1 is closest to your characters. Column 2 is middle.
I'll try to have a picture up. I'll try to have a picture up in the description.
Yeah, you put a picture up, and if you're watching this, then we got to do a picture because this is going to get confusing. Yeah. Otherwise.
So the way it works is your goal is to take out the characters in this grid. Okay. That's all you have to do. And the way it works, which I will say this right now, this is probably one of my favorite battle systems. Hands down. It's probably one of my favorite battle systems. Because it borrows from your Final Fantasy X, but I think it does better. In my opinion, I think it does better.
That's his opinion, not mine.
Yes. And I'll tell you why the trigger is. I'll tell you why the trigger of that is. But anyways, So of course this is created on the DS, so it's convenient that one screen has your turn, what's the word?
It's like the character turn battle. It shows who gets to go next, and it's like a column. Yeah. It's like, okay, it shows the picture of what character goes, then the next picture is the next person, then the enemies, blah blah blah.
Yeah, and then on the bottom you have your battlefield that you.
And then the bottom screen is the actual battle happening.
Yeah. So based on where your enemies are positioned is how hard they can hit you. So the closer they are, they can hit harder. The further back they are, they hurt less.
Let's put it in terms of this. If they're in column 1, closest to you, they do 20. If they're in column 2, they do 15. If they're in column 3, furthest from you, they do 10. Let's say that.
So what is the plan of all this? Your plan is to probably want to push them back the further they are. And so their attacks don't hurt you as much. But wait a minute. There might be multiples. So you might have 2 people in a row or a column. So what do? Well, you can move them around in one of your moves. There's a push. Most of the time in the battle system, you have your attack, but you'll be using your mana a lot. And thank God they're very nice on your mana. They don't take a lot of your mana.
No.
Because you rely on that more than your attacks. We'll be honest with you.
Yeah, so basically you're fighting in a grid, and there's a character who's in column 1. There's a move called push. So when you go to attack them, which takes like 2 or 3 mana, you will push them back. If there's nobody else in that column, you push them all the way back to the last one. Mm-hmm. Also, you also have a move that's called left assault. I'm pretty sure they have a right assault.
Yep, they do. Yep.
But you have left assault, so you can push them up and down in the same column. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why they did this is because, say you're fighting a guy, and there's a guy in column 1, and there's a guy behind him. Also, there's a guy behind him in the next column. If you do push assault, you will push those 2 together. And from that point, you can attack both of them at the same time. Same with if there's 2 people in the same column, you can push them left. So you push him into the other guy who's also in the column, and you can attack them both too. And attacks work in a combo system. If you got your 3 characters and they all attack in sequence, then it's a combo, and the more hits you do, the more damage you do. Unless you do skills. If you do skills, then it goes up by 2. Mm-hmm. So you do more damage or whatever. And every time you attack, they all just attack in sequence. And this is where one of the issues I have comes in. But we'll get to that in a second. But they all just attack immediately, which is fine. It feels a little weird at first, but it's fine. I mean, you do that in every other RPG. It's just a bit slower. So this one just happens. And like I said, it has a whole combo system. You also have what they call the change. Now,
hang on. Before we go into that, I do want to go back to that part here. Back to the just the grid itself. So Brian mentioned that you can push back these characters together and bundle them up. And then you can attack them all. And just FYI, they go back to that spot where they are because that's where they can go, unless you knock them out all in one flow. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to stick together in one column together. Yeah, you're just bundling them up so it's easier to get extra hits.
You bundle them up during the combo. When the combo's over, they go back to where they was at.
Yes. And it's really cool because if you can push them quicker, then your third person can get the big hit if you strategize it just right. Even kind of moving them, left and right or whatever. Now, there are enemies that take 2 spots, like say a giant tiger. He can take 2 spots. So basically, no matter what, you can only probably push him 1 because he only gets the back and the middle row. Mm-hmm. So big people. There's even a monster that takes 4 spaces. Even boss fights, they take about 4. So you have to and I like this because it's more of a tactical strategy. Like you sit there, you're like, how can I kill these 4 people before I get hit once? And I kind of like that.
Yeah, but you're starting to see my issues with it.
But I like that a lot because it works well with me. I will say the downfall of this is the battles take long. There are long battles. These are not quick battles unless they're weak enemies. Sometimes when they're long battles, these battles can go long because you have to strategize how you want to go at it in different ways. Yeah. Sometimes you might want to pull them in the front. Sometimes you want to pull them in the back. I don't know what your idea is when you play this game.
I don't think it matters as far as where they're positioned of how much damage you do. I don't think that they said that it matters. So if they're in column 1 or column 3 and you go to hit them, because you can hit them, you can hit anywhere on the grid. So if they're in the middle, you can hit them in the middle. If they're in the back, you don't have to kill an enemy in front of them to get to the one in the back. You can attack whoever you want to, and it doesn't matter what column they're on. Also, in case y'all confused, your characters are not in the column. Your characters are in the same spot the whole time. Like, they can't push your character back. So it's not 2 grids. It's just a grid for the enemies, not your characters.
Yeah. That's why I was kind of confused when you had the word grappling. Mm-hmm. Why would you? Because my question is, why would you want to pull an enemy up forward? Well, that move pulls him up, and then he automatically gets a hit on him too at the same time. So that's worth it in that way because then you can.
It's a weak hit though.
It is, but then if you can group them together, then you could push them all back again, and then you get more double points. So you just have to strategize what works and doesn't work. It's a bunch of trial and errors. Magic's a little bit tough Because I hate the fact I understand the game, but I hate it that I waste a turn trying to figure out what a person's weakness is. It's like crap. That's just gonna ruin my flow.
The way I said it, when you attack, like it says, you click on it and it says attack this character, and then it goes to your next character and your next character and your next character, or whatever. And then after that, it just cycles through all three of them at the same time into a combo. And it seems like they're trying to streamline it or make it fast, but in that sense, like say you want your first character to attack and your second character to scan, it just kind of breaks the immersion a little bit. It kind of slows it down.
So about the change part you mentioned, I'll go ahead and let you talk about that.
So the change is you got to look at the character window or whatever. So you got your first three characters are attacking. Oh, no. Say it like this. You got two characters attacking, and then you got an enemy, and then your last character gets to attack. Now, if you want to do a combo, you have to have all three of them attack in sequence. So you can do change. You can change your position of whatever character you want and switch it out with the enemy. So your first character can change with the enemy, and then the enemy will go to the top. So then all three of your characters will be in. And
the sacrifice is: you willing to sacrifice your character, that enemy, to hit you, so you all can be together and attack?
Yeah. So also, whatever character changes goes into, I forget what they called it, but at this point he turns red. And if you get hit while you're red, you take double damage. Mm-hmm. So it's a sacrifice, or it's a gamble if you want to do that. But it puts your characters into the combo systems, because the more you hit, the more damage you do.
So it's very hard to get hit when you're red, to tell you the truth, when you're all together, because by the time you're red, your turn is going and you don't really get hit by the enemy, if you're lucky enough.
There's still a chance that like you take that one character, you switch, and then that enemy, since he's get to go because you switch, he can hit that character.
Yeah,
it never happened to me. Which is funny, but
love that. I love the fact that you kind of get to play a little bit the rules of like, okay, I want these people to get, I'll switch it, because I might do it ahead and I can get attacked 10 times in a row if I do it just right. Especially like a boss fight, and then I can experiment stuff like, okay, let me see if all these magic work on this person. You have time to do trial and error and all this stuff. I love the change up. I think that makes me like the battle system even more, in that aspect. What are you not a fan of it?
I think it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's fine. The issue I do have is the same issue I had with, I think it was Lufia. Was it Lufia? I don't know. It was one of those games where you attack, and then when your next character attacks, they'll immediately go to the next enemy. They will attack the same enemy even if it's dead, and I hate that.
Okay.
So if you're doing a combo and you kill the enemy, your next character will still attack the enemy even if it's dead.
Okay. So now the reason why for that, they explain that is if the more combos you do and all that kind of stuff, you get extra experience on top of that. So that's a sacrifice on top.
So it's like an overkill.
Yeah, you get extra experience.
It still seems
so,
because I feel like I could attack. I had a point where Stock could one shot one of these enemies, but so I grouped one together and I wanted to attack that one enemy and then attack another one, but I ended up not killing the first two because I thought he would die, and it messed me up. So then the next time I did the same thing, but I ended up killing the enemy on the second attack, and my third guy attacked him, and they were already dead, and it was like that's wasted to me. So
I cannot compare it to Lufia, because the fact that if Lufia showed me a bar of how much they have life left, then I would let Lufia pass. I let this game pass because at least with the bar, I know that
you get a better idea.
You get a better idea of the attack, and I can move stuff around. I get where you're coming from, but I forgive this one because at least it kind of gave you a chance. Like, look, I'm sorry that this person didn't automatically attack, but at the same time, you saw how much he has. You took a chance on that, so I give that credit instead of Lufia.
I'll tell you, Jack.
But here's the thing, though. At least he attacks something. He just doesn't attack if there's nothing around. At least he attacks something.
Oh, it's the same difference, though.
Lufia doesn't. They don't attack anybody. They just attack air.
Air. But I mean, you attacking a dead creature is nearly.
But at least you're getting experience while you're beating a horse down while it's dead.
Okay, I'll give you that.
That's the only thing I would say.
Still didn't like it though.
Yeah. Is there anything else that stood out that you were not a big fan of, or is that kind of the only one?
I mean, I'm not a big on the strategy type stuff, so the grid system, while it was fine, it wasn't my favorite. It still was kind of made me not want to battle so much.
I'll give you that.
It's
like, definitely a hard hater or love it.
With the long, like you said, the battles are long, and I was fighting weak creatures, and it still felt way too long because creatures they like to place them in weird places. So sometimes I couldn't even group them together to kill them pretty fast or whatever. And again, it's that tactical stuff. I don't like. I'm not a tactical RPG type guy.
And also, too, enemies get these special treatments where, like, if they're in a certain formation, you get these little shiny things above them. Like, either they get extra health on these pads, so you have to move them so they'll be out of their formation. Mm-hmm. And so, later on in the game, you get this ability where you get a special super drive, and one of the super drive I have is I can cancel somebody's turn without sacrificing my turn. So that's something I learned later. And I was like, well, that's cool.
That magic seemed, I don't know, maybe I just didn't use the...
It's not a magic. It's just, it's a grid you fill up, and then
No, I'm talking about the magic in the game.
Oh, just in general?
Just because Rainey had lightning or something. And lightning seemed like the waste of my time. She hit way harder than lightning on everything I tried on, which was everything I fought. No matter what I fought, her attack was more than lightning. It's like, well, okay, what's the point of this magic then? Because she said that she used magic, like that was one of her character traits that they made, but it just seemed like her magic was pathetic.
I feel like they made the enemies too vulnerable to it, because some enemies, I think, right, you're right, lightning feels like kind of pointless, but at the same time, a lot of enemies I scanned, they always tell me they have no weakness. The only thing I used more than anything was poison. Poison helped out a lot.
Yeah, I think I used like one of the poison items. That was pretty good, but... I mean, other than that, I would either use left assault, push, or grapple. I mean, with any of the characters, I never used magic. It was just wasted. At least that's how it felt to me. And the magic felt weak. But not RPGs do that.
Yeah, I think that's why, to be honest with you, in this game, Marco was really the best teammate, because he was a great healer.
Yeah, but Stock could heal too. Or
Stock later.
Stock could heal too.
But Marco gets the area, so he can do a group heal.
Yeah.
And it's weird that Rain gets regeneration, and then Stock gets it later. It's like, it's weird. Like, I always thought Marco was going to be the heal house, and then Ray is that, the magic shop.
See, that's another way. I don't think they did the characters right, because you get heal for two characters way too easy, and it just seems like that doesn't flow. Like, Stock should have got some kind of area of effect attack, while Marco should have got heal, and then like group heal, and then regen, and then Rainey, at least this is how they explain the characters in the story. Rainey should have been getting lightning, fire, earth, wind, water, the Avatar stuff.
And thank God that this game didn't go too far where different timelines took away their abilities. Thank God they didn't go that route, right?
Ooh, if they did, it'd have been unplayable. And
right. Like, you go so far.
They knew better than that.
Right. You go so far in the game and they learn these abilities, and you go back in time like, oh, I lost this and this. This sucks.
Yeah, say you're like Chapter 2, Timeline B, and you got Lightning 6. And then you go back to Chapter 1, Time A, and all of a sudden you don't have lightning no more. It's like, what? No. No. But that goes back to the whole thing. It feels like, well, this... actually is kind of a conundrum. It's like Stock remembers everything and he keeps his stuff, but when you go to a different timeline, do they keep their stuff?
Yeah. That's where
that bakes the noodle,
right? That's where where they knew the line of, we know what this is, a video game.
I know. This is when they was like, look, all you Terminator people talking about timelines. It's a game. Just play it. Stop asking these stupid questions.
Yeah, so thank God they just like, look, just enjoy the story, okay? Just enjoy the story, but don't take the technically.
But, I mean, if they were to do that, though, it would have put an interesting dynamic. Say, Timeline A, Chapter 1, Rainey learned ice, but at Timeline B, Chapter 1, she learned fire. Mm-hmm. That would have put an interesting dynamic on it, but it would have been way too much stuff to try to keep track of.
Yeah.
You'd have been like, okay, I don't even know what spells I got in this one. Or say Stock has this area effect attack that attacks everything for 50 damage. But in the other one, he has an area effect attack that does everything for 20. Why would I even want to play that timeline? It's like, I'm so weak here. So that's the issue.
But I did like the pace of the leveling. You level up pretty nicely at a good pace.
You did level up pretty good. And then it slowed it down because... at first, it felt like it was too easy. I was like, okay, wait a minute. I'm leveling up every couple battles. But they slowed it down. So it was a nice pace versus like Legend Dragoon, where it took 16 hours to go one level.
I think so at the time, too. They got to level you up quick, because when it's time for those hard, long battles, you don't want to go in low. They want you to come prepared.
Versus that one game where I fought 4 goblins at once and they just clapped some cheeks. They came in, just smacked everybody up, and it was done.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, I felt way underpowered, although I felt like I played for a long time. So I don't know. I think the leveling is just it's where it needs to be.
So one of the additional characters that do fight with you in your party is Roche. How did you feel about him at the time? He was basically your column fighter.
I used him twice. I didn't like him.
Okay.
So, I mean, at the time, he just didn't have anything that I wanted.
So, weirdly enough, what I did was in the first timeline, I just stuck with Rain and Marco. And in the last part, I did Rain and Roche. Because I'm one of those people where I feel like later on, Roche is going to be forced to be there. And I don't want him to be low. Kind of mindset. You know what I mean? And thank God that they
they don't level your character outside of not being in battles.
No, they do. It's just slow.
Okay.
Thank God. I'm glad you asked that. Because, yes, Marco was leveling up. He just leveled up slow. Okay. And then what they do is, the low person, they get more experience at every battle. If he's back in your party, he gets more experience so they can have him catch up on top of that.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Final Fantasy VIII didn't do that at all.
Yeah.
They screwed you royally.
Yeah.
Level 100 and your character level 20. Like...
Yeah, so I'm glad they, like, you know, leave no person behind. But here's the sucky part is, it's not one of those parts where, like, if a character leaves for a long time and then you rejoin them, they rejoin you again. It's not like they amp up where they think they're close to your level. They're more like, they're back where they were. So that person was level 8 at that time, and then they run away. They roll away for the story-wise, and you come back and meet them again. They're probably still an 8, and you're going to have to level them up.
Oh, so you were 10 and they were 8, and then you were 20, and they come back. I'm not saying that this happened. Would they be 18?
No, that's what I'm saying. 8? I'm saying they don't upscale when they rejoin. I believe they're the same level where they were at the time that you had them in your party, and then they leave because of the story.
Say you were to grind, because that's what I do. You were level 10, they were 8. You went and they left your party, and then you went and grinded all the way to 30, and you come back there still at 8.
Story-wise, yes. Yeah. So for another example, Ant, the little shaman girl, she was there for me for a little bit, and I think she was like level 15. At the end of my 16 hours, I'm level 26. If I met her again, she'd probably still be 15. So, but here's the thing though, because of that, that's why they speed them up really quick to get you caught up.
Okay.
So they might level 1 or 2, depending on the battles. So at least it's not one of those like super small. They cater to them. So like you might at the end of the battle, you might be 50, but she'll get 100. So they're like, we're gonna try to catch her up real quick.
Okay.
So that kind of helps a little bit.
That's not bad.
You know. But overall, I understand your point of view. This is a love-hate battle system. You're in or you out with this one. And I was in for this one.
And I'm not out, but I'm more on the side of out.
Okay. That's cool. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that battle system stood out to me other than
was there a fleet option? I never tried.
There was. And I love the fleet because everybody gets a chance. It's not a one chance and it's over. It's more like, you know, if that person can escape, the next person got a chance to escape. And they escape as a group. Not that cheesy crap like, oh, one person left. There's 2 people left. They all have to escape individually. I hate that. You
know, the best escape system was Mario and Luigi.
You want to explain what that is?
You see Mario and Luigi and they run and it looks like they're running through quicksand and they're screaming and freaking coins are flying out of them and you have to press the buttons and it's so funny. It looks like they're going to trip like they were in the freaking Friday the 13th movie.
It's like a Looney Tune cartoon.
Oh my goodness, it's so hilarious. Yeah. It's the best escape system.
So, that's the battle system. So let's talk about a little bit of the I got for one other thing, enemies. There's some dick enemies in this game, man.
They I don't know, the ones I fought were all the same thing. They were all generic.
Did you ever run into a cactus blow crab?
I don't think so.
So it's this giant crab that takes 4 spaces, and he has this giant shell, and he is vulnerable to attacks and magic. He's weak against poison. So I had to sit there and poison him as he's slowly depleted. And he is weak too. So we're just here going back and forth. And he's just slow. Here's the bad part, Brian. And this is the part that hurts the game a little bit for me. If an enemy is poison, they cannot die by poison. If they are poison, they cannot die by poison. So literally, Brian, you go to their bar, they're depleted. But you still have to hit them to kill them. So their poison go all the way to the end of the bar. But you have to strike them to die. And that's what happened with the crab. Like, he was poisoned, he was already dead. I was like, why won't you die? And I had to hit him to kill him. That sucks.
That's terrible.
I hate sting creatures. I have a list of I hate creatures. They love taking your attention away. So here's the thing. So the superpower move that you get is called tension, and you build that tension up so you can do your special. And for example, I said the special is you can take somebody's turn away instead of making a change. But here's the thing. Enemies got the ability to take your attention away. So if you have this bar filled up and they use the ability to take your attention, it goes down and you have to build it right back up again. And that tension bar reminds me of King of the Fighters, where like, you have that little grid that goes up like, kind of like that. So they suck. But the worst one, and this is the funniest one because it caught me in surprise. So I was in the sewer on a road to go try to assassinate this princess. I hate blue leeches because what they can do, Brian, they can summon.
They can summon?
They can summon.
What's this Final Fantasy enemies?
They can summon. And you know what the blue leeches look like? They're those spiked little worms. They're like they're both body in the ground. All you see is just their wormy self and their spikes. You've seen the green ones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the blue ones, they summon. And it's this giant plant monster. He's just hovering. And guess what? He doesn't die when the leader dies. He just stays there. So I kill everybody. I still have to kill that summons. And boy, it is annoying. And they can do it on the fly. It sucks.
It's like, the games where they can call more enemies in. And it's always will forever hate enemies who can summon more enemies. Because it's like the battle will never freaking end. And then you fight 3 of them. You fight 3 enemies who can summon more enemies. So it will never end. Mm-hmm. Oh, I can't stand that.
Yeah. Oh man, those were the worst ones I ran into, and it's not hard, but it just, like you said, the more enemies, the more it's like, I got stuff to do. Can you guys leave? I got stuff to do.
Battle for 16 hours. Mm-hmm. Sound like some Final Fantasy Final Mix stuff.
Right. Progression. So
we pretty much talked about that.
Yeah.
Progression's good.
Yeah. Good pace. I had a good. I like where it was going. I like that you can hit these enemies while they're asleep. I mean, knock them out they're asleep, and you get the upper hand on them.
When you're in the battle, I mean, you got the battle world obviously, and then you got the overworld or whatever. When you're in, you can. I mean, like he said earlier, it's not a random battle encounter. Like you see the enemies that you're going to fight. So before they come and you fight them, you can smack them or something, and then you go in and you usually get 4 turns. So Stock gets to go twice, and then your other characters get to go once, usually. So that's what he means when he's saying that.
Yeah, but they can also get you, if they get you from behind, then they go first.
Yeah, it's like preemptive battle for them.
And so, but thank God that like there's not overwhelming enemies in the same place. They kind of space them out where you have room to breathe instead of like, there's 4 people sitting here walking around each other. Like they don't acknowledge that they exist around each other. Yeah. How am I going to walk past this? I hate areas where you're saying you're not random, but you put enemies there where I have no choice to fight them. So it's almost like a random anyways.
Like a friggin' big cow or something that blocks the entire entrance, so you can't get around them no matter what. That's definitely not random.
Right.
Yeah, they do that. They do that on there. I mean, that's random in every game, even if they say it's not. They put it to where it's not. They say it's not random as just saying that it isn't, but it clearly freaking is. So.
Yeah. So they do a good job through there, but I will say these creatures can chase you down. They know how to run. And they don't give up.
Faster than you.
Yeah, they're not one of people like, okay, I'm going to chase you after 5 seconds. All right, you can go. I give up. No, they chase you down till you leave the next screen.
Yeah, you got to leave the whole screen, and they will not stop chasing you.
Yeah. So, but other than that, I never felt like overwhelmed. I never felt like that I was exhausted, the way that the pace was. I like that, they find different ways to make it a true transition, a smooth transition where you're not overly repeating yourself over again in certain ways. You know what I mean? Like I said, like, you're going to go through this field again, but at least they do stuff a little slightly different that makes it a lot easier and make it meaningful. Like you're supposed to meet here at a certain destination to meet, an informant.
But it also has to deal with the story. I mean, it's very story driven. So it's like you run through this area, and the area has different break-off points to different places, and there's always, when you get into that area that you go through, it's always like they give you some story. So at least grabs your attention, because otherwise you'd be like, man, I got to go through this area again. But this time I'll just go down instead of left. But usually they give you some story right as you get to the crossroads. So it keeps your attention.
And I will say for this progression, I enjoyed the music during the progression. I thought the music was pretty good. I'm not going to say memorable, but the music wasn't bad either.
No.
I like the battle music. It felt like it was really like, it always felt like that is hyping up for something to happen, but it never happens. It's like, and it's like, when are you going to drop the beat? Okay, you're not going to drop it. Okay.
It's just leaving you on the edge. You're just balancing over the edge of the hill, but you never fall off of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of the music is, just tension. Just like the name of that super move you get. So, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah. I thought the progression is great and whatnot. And I think other than that, is there anything else I'm missing, Mr. Brian, Mr. Wizard?
I think we got them all. Just quotes is left.
Okay. Wait, you said quotes? We
already got the quotes, but
the reviews.
Reviews.
Okay, so
you know what I meant.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about reviews. And the way this works is, in our other ones, we kind of just went to just look at some reviews and we just talk about. We're changing up for this particular episode. We're gonna pick basically 4 good ones and 4 mediocres to bad ones, and just kind of read and just
see
what we thought. What do we agree with the reviewers trying to get across, or disagree what they say, and put our own opinions on there. So.
Without further ado,
So let's go with the one that gets the 100%. See what they say from Gaming Nexus. So they say, an almost flawless game, Radiant Historia is everything I hope for a modern day portable RPG. Atlus and Index Corporation have potentially created a rival for Chrono Trigger in terms of storytelling and quality. It's hard to say you give it 100 and you say almost flawless.
Yeah, because when you rate it from 1 to 100, 100 is pretty much flawless there, good buddy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Chrono Trigger, I mean, that's like the holy grail almost, so that's pretty big shoes to fill. I can see the comparison.
They say rival. Would you rival it, in your opinion?
No.
Okay.
I can see the comparisons, but rival, not so much.
I think he was trying to say with the storytelling rivals with time change. And I do agree with that, because at least Historia did something different. They just didn't copy Chrono Trigger's time style.
Then he should have said it's like Chrono Trigger instead of rivaling it. Rivaling it means it's trying
I don't think it likes. I think it's not like Chrono Trigger. I think it's its own thing. It's just time. They're just known for time traveling, so they get that trophy for that. So
I ain't the only game in time travel, so
that's true too. That's very true. And I need to look into that, because I can't count Chrono Cross, because it's basically the spiritual successor to that by the same company.
The same thing.
Well, no, it's by the same company.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I don't count them. Okay.
It's got Chrono in the title.
True. Okay. So next one. Let's go with you know what? Let's go with a user.
I was about to say go critic user.
Yeah, let's go.
Critic user.
Okay. So, if Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy Tactics had a baby, Radiant Historia would be it. I can't remember what critic wrote that, but it's pretty spot on. Radiant Historia is a fantastic game. I do agree. I would say it's Chrono Trigger and Tactics together. I would say
it's Tactics light.
Tactics. I agree with that.
Way more tactical. Like, it has the tactical elements in it, but it's not. No, it's not that. But that's probably why he said Chrono Trigger / title. Like, it has some of both parts.
We said it had a baby, so baby is going to be light.
But then Chrono Trigger is more. The battle system, as far as Chrono Trigger, isn't the same at all. Because then Chrono Trigger, like, active time battle.
You can choose. You can choose to go active, or where no matter what, people attack you, even if you don't attack, but it's still turn based.
I haven't played it in a while, so
yeah, so it's still turn based in that aspect. The only difference I would take away from it is, and I think maybe it would be cool if they had duo combos like Chrono Trigger. Like, would that break the game if Radiant had like 2 characters work together to do a super move on the grid, like a team attack?
Yeah.
Would that break the game to you, or
I don't think so. I mean, the game seemed to be based off of combos and stuff anyway.
So I think that would have been a cool add-on.
They should have had, Stock and Marco do one, and then Stock and Rain do one, and Marco Rain do one, and then all 3 of them do one.
Yeah, I think that would have been really cool.
And they'd have been devastating moves that take quite a bit of mana. So yeah, they definitely should have done that.
Okay.
It's fun.
RPG fan. And since I already given this review some special treatment, rather than end with a flowery or poetic conclusion, I'll simply reiterate that Radiant Historia is one of the best JRPGs I've played in years. Atlus has given us a winner. So for Atlus, I can agree with that because for a Western audience, I don't think a lot of Westerns have played a lot of Shin Megami Tensei games. So no. I would say this is probably one of their top better ones that go up there, but it's going to be probably one of the best forgotten ones.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. And he said in years, well, I don't know what he has played at that time.
Well, so, what year did he put that out?
It was 2011. That's when the game came out.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else he had played at the time. Maybe that's something we'll have to talk off the air. Last good one, the 10 from F-Type. Radiant Historia is the best RPG I played in ages. Being a huge fan of PS1 and SNES RPGs, this game is a true embodiment of what an RPG should have. I'm not reading this whole thing. This is too long.
Night. He wrote a paragraph.
Yeah, we're not going to go that long. Basically, I'm just going to read that first quote. That's where I'm going to stop at.
Just paraphrase.
Yeah, basically, he just talks about the timeline. Basically, everything we just talked about. Yeah. Basically, what it is.
He's giving you everything we just said.
Yeah. So, okay.
Saying he liked it, and this is why.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's go to one of the lower ones.
And these, by lower, we don't mean like 1s and 2s out of 10s or 100s. It's pretty much a general consensus that everybody liked this game. So
yeah. So Game Critic with a 75 says, while JRPGs continue to flounder on home consoles, games like this one prove that the genre is alive and well on handhelds.
That's a pretty bad take because it doesn't give us anything. It's a blanket statement, but it doesn't say why he gave it a 75. If you're going to give a game less than 90, you can't say it's... He basically said it was a good game, but he didn't tell us why he gave it a 75. So that's a really bad take.
Okay. Let's try Game Shark. The time traveling mechanic is the epicenter of this adventure, can be as bothersome as is intriguing, but most of Radiant Historia's faults are easily forgiven. In a genre often plagued by cliche and cutout characters, Radiant Historia apathetic. Ooh, man, I'm messing up. Basically saying these unique characters and strong themes are surprisingly invigorating.
See, that makes more sense. You can get the idea he gave it 75 because while he liked the time travel, he also kind of didn't. So that makes more sense. That's a good one, and I will agree with that completely.
Yeah, because
the time travel it's a little eerie, especially if you don't really start reading. Because again, the reading's a lot, and some people will be like, I ain't reading all this."
Okay, how long is yours? Too long?
Jeez, these people are writing paragraphs.
I know, guys. You can tell it in a couple of sentences. So, I'm only going to do like the first couple of sentences of people's stuff. So Cal 7, while far deeper and better done than I have come to expect of Atlus, this game reminds me more of Xenogear or Chrono Cross than Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy Tactics. It lacks a true polished feel from moving around, and the combat system while gimmickly, admittedly par from the course nowadays, is at least playable, and as the game progresses, increasingly enjoyable. The story is extremely slow to get started, and I found my palm in my face more than a few times wondering why should I bother to try to save the game's world once it did. So
I guess I didn't get that far to get that, but yeah.
Do you agree the story is slow?
Yeah. It was kind of a slog at some points, reading over and over again.
Okay.
And the battle system, I think he said it wasn't the greatest. And again, I kind of agree with that, but I did like the innovation in the battle system because it's a bit different.
Okay. Jod MK2, Radiant creates a fresh battle system that I really enjoy and would love to see another game pick up and improve on what was there. The beauty of this game comes in simplicity of the battle system and the menu scrolling. I think the menu was easy to get around. It was very simple. They like everything was really in the front. You didn't have to go so many deeper down the windows to go to find stuff. Considering you spent a lot of time going into Historia, you need a clean and easy to use to travel throughout the story and deliver it. They could have added a lot of fancy mechanics, but I'm glad they didn't. The battle system, while simple to use and understand, still managed to become a challenge as you try to shuffle turn order or maximize your attacks and minimize your damage you take. Presentation is where this game is a letdown. The graphics are nothing special and the environments are pretty boring and no real chance of exploration. While the characters' design are good, I don't feel their characters develop as much as they could done. Only stock I felt got this. The music is nothing memorable as well. What a shame. Which is a shame. So.
I agree. I mean, the biggest ding for me was the non-exploration. Like you said, there is not. It is like story-driven, straight linear path. Look, this is what you do. Now go do it. And you can't go this way, or you can't go that way, or you can't do this, you can't do that.
I think that that's the thing about all classic JRPGs were all like that.
Not really.
So, I think so. Oh,
they still allowed you to explore.
Oh, Final Fantasy games were very linear to me.
Like, say that one of the first games you played. I mean, while they should have had a little more hand holding because you didn't know what to do sometimes. You just get lost and be running around doing whatever. But it still allowed you to go places. Here, you cannot go but the right way. They won't let you go here. They won't let you go
That's
there.
true. I'll give you that. But at the same time, for my defense, if there's nothing in the open world, then it's kind of pointless to give you this free opening. And some of the games that we have played, it's kind of silly. There's an open world and there's only like 2 places you can go at that point. All you do is run around. You're basically grinding. In my opinion,
yeah.
But I'm just talking about classics, not talking about newer ones, because side quests weren't that big in the old days.
Oh no!
So
they didn't even have side quests really.
Story
and grinding.
So we're wrapping this up. This is probably our longest episode because just like this game, this is a very long game, very heavy dialogue.
I think the first one was about an hour and a half. So
yeah, because this is funny because this is the one where. It doesn't feel like, maybe for listeners, we're bashing. A lot of other games I feel like we're bashing, but I feel like truth can sound bashing.
Yeah.
You know, truth is truth.
There's some stuff I didn't like about it, but I mean, the overall, it would be, closer to a 7.5, even though there's some things I didn't like about it. Versus, like the other games, I mean, they were all below 5, easy.
So, the question is, and I will answer this first, is this game worth it? Is it worth getting?
Would I recommend it to somebody?
Would I recommend it?
Oh, yeah, easily.
Yeah. I was going to say yes, I would recommend this if you can find a copy.
Good luck.
This game is hard to find. If you can find the perfect Chronicle one, I recommend getting that one because I'm pretty sure it will maybe improve a lot of stuff that maybe Brian had a problem with. I don't know.
Streamline it.
I don't know. But I'm not going to say if you can find a ROM, you're on your own on that. I'm not going to tell you where you can find it or anything like that. But if you want to find a copy, you're looking about maybe more than like $40-$50, maybe to $100, because now the game is becoming very rare to find and get and stuff. Unless later on, if Nintendo decides to, and they won't, open the floodgates and port this game over there on a Switch edition, which they won't. And
if anybody can tell me where to find Xenosaga 3, let me know.
Except me. Right,
he's not gonna give his up, so I mean, I wouldn't either. I'm even gonna pretend to ask.
But I recommend this game because this game does a lot of good storytelling and a lot of stuff that other RPG games I feel like
drop the ball
on a lot of stuff.
Like I said, the story is excellent, so it's well written and everything. So go if you really like stories. Oh yeah,
better for worse, you love or hate the battle system. The battle system to me was still enjoyable for what it was. And I like the fact they took a chance on an idea and not just straight. I think this game would have been boring if it was just a straight traditional RPG. You just,
Yeah.
I'm glad they kind of made it feel like, because that grid felt like a battle. And this story is basically about war. So it felt cool that the battle felt like kind of like you're on the battlefield.
Like ranks and squads and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I do recommend this. If you find it, get it. Don't get rid of it. Just hold on to it. Enjoy it for what it is.
Don't get rid of anything. Just keep everything. Don't get rid of it. If its game sucks, put it on a shelf.
But I would love to hear what people think compared to Chrono Trigger, because anybody that plays this game is going to think Chrono Trigger automatically when they think of this.
They're always going to draw comparisons to that. It seems like every little thing we read had drawn comparisons to Chrono Trigger, so I figured.
Yeah. But play and tell me what you thought. Do you think you like it better, Chrono Trigger? Do you think that this game is his rival? Do you think this game stands up? Do this game need to be talking about more? Let us know. Leave a comment down below on the listening site you're doing that. And if you're on YouTube, please leave a comment down below and let us know what you think on that one. I'm hoping that I will have video for this episode. If not, it'll just be a pretty picture of the battlefield. So you got to get a better understanding.
Yeah, you got to find a battlefield of the grid system at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, it might be a little confusing.
But this is part of the In-Game Boss program, Network Game and other variety shows, and we have many more episodes to present you coming up. But please go listen to our other ones. We did Lufia, we did Brave Story, we did Battle Chasers, we have done Paladin Quest. For better, for worse, I hope that we entertained you while you join this party.
That which name should not be spoken. No.
Yes. So with that, thank you so much, and we will catch you on our next adventure. Party disbanded.